Single parenting isn't easy. We understand. Most parents don't plan to go it alone, but you can still make the most of this journey for your children and yourself. In fact, if you and your family are on that journey, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Single Parent Advocate community and to our podcast. And here are your hosts, single parent founder Stacy Poitras, and broadcast journalist, single dad and friend, Daryl Moody.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. I am Daryl Moody. This is the Single Parent Advocate Podcast. We join you each week to kind of create a community, if you will, of single parents where we share our own tips and talk about our own struggles and our journey. And hopefully we can all learn a little bit something together. I'm joined once again by the Single Parent Advocate, Stacy Poitras. She is in the Work Innovators at VentureX Castle Hills in Dallas, Texas, the beautiful studios you guys have there. Stacy, I am just blown away by how cool that anchor desk looks. How are you doing this week?
I feel like I'm just a princess on a pea. It's awesome. I'm so excited about our friends here at Work Innovators. They have been really incredible, from teaching me how to upload the video to YouTube and making sure that we have all the right sound and set to be able to grow our podcast and be able to reach the community better and know each other better, Daryl. It's been pretty cool.
So we are on YouTube now.
We are on YouTube. We're on YouTube. Right now we have the audio files from Karen Stanley up, as well as a few of the other talks that we've gotten to have. Okay. We're working on getting last week's interview up from Kelly Aceta. People can always go to singleparentadvocate.org to the podcast tab and pick up the audio file. And then, of course, I've promoted it across all socials. But my dream is that, we would have video where we could upload it to YouTube and people could get to know us and meet the actual people that we're talking to as well. So we've got that on the front burner, and we're going to be going live with the actual video uploads as soon as possible.
Exciting. And it's funny, I come from a background in radio, and I kind of challenged you on that. You and I talked offline this week. I said, Stacy, why is it so important that we get on YouTube? And of course, you pointed out it's the second most used search engine on the internet.
It is. And, Single Parent Advocate has an intern, and Felicity is her name. And so Felicity was telling me this morning as I was having my YouTube upload lessons, and she said, I'm really glad we're going to have the videos up. She said, I actually watch that in the mornings while I'm getting ready for class, And so I think this is going to be a really smart way to perhaps even reach out to the younger generation of single parents out there who've grown up going to YouTube for, all kinds of answers and how-tos and what-ifs and things like that. So, because we deal with the kind of content that we do, meaning that we want to spread the wealth of our own hindsight for the sake of other families, I think it's going to be a really good service, even though it's a little bit of extra time. And I'm looking very forward to doing it. I'm very grateful for it.
Well, you and I talk about this all the time. What we hope to accomplish with the show, we want to be a resource to other single parents. So, the more places that we can make this information available, the better. So, like I said, guy from a radio background, I challenged you and said, why do we need to get up? But you're absolutely right. So, very exciting stuff. So, talk to us about what's going on with singleparentadvocate.org. What are you going on this week?
Well, so what we're doing locally in the Dallas area is tomorrow, Saturday, April 24th, we are going to do a Money Matters. I brought you a little show and tell today. There is this 250-page workbook that everybody who attends is going to get. And in it is all of this material to help us learn how to manage our finances in a way that we can track what's coming in, track what's going out, forecast what's in the future, and that way we can do more with our funds. And they have all kinds of tips and tricks that we got a little teaser on this week. And that really related more like to credit and how to, help your child establish credit, how, to improve your own credit. So Rika Wright is actually based in West Palm Beach, Florida. Okay. And she is going to be our guest financial advisor. And then also Jeannie Irvin from here in the Dallas area at BBVA Bank. She's a vice president there. So the two of them are going to do a 1-2 punch for 2 hours on how we can clean up our financial household and really be stronger as families for ourselves and for our kids. So really excited about that. I actually just sent, I think we have about 40 families signed up so far. And so we'll be on Zoom tomorrow morning, 10 to noon.
Every single parent knows how important the budget is.
Yeah, most months are, how do you say, it's more month than money.
Sure.
And so certainly when a penny saved is a penny earned, and all those different sayings are things that we do to work both ends against the middle to survive and thrive as single families. It's just the way the economics of having that kind of family really is for many who are in the single parent world.
Oh, there's a dramatic adjustment from going to a 2-income household to a 1-income household. It's absolutely good stuff. So really exciting. You said you got about 40 families that are already registered to participate in this thing?
Yep. Well,
fantastic.
Families and volunteers, we always like to make sure if we're doing an EDU series thing, we invite all of our volunteers to join too, because a lot of times these are tough topics that, are difficult to talk about out loud, and so we have a private Zoom, and we are just going to absolutely help these families and ourselves, ideally, get stronger and have a better money relationship. It's gonna be really cool. Yeah.
Well, that's a great segue into our topic of discussion this week, and that is difficult conversations.
I'm getting sticky already.
Yeah, it's only going to get worse. Trust me. Wait till you hear my story. So, as a parent, as a single dad with 2 girls, and bear in mind, my oldest is going to be 8 in June, and my youngest is going to be 6 in August. So, I would like to think that puberty is far off, but based on a conversation I had with my oldest daughter, that train is bearing down on me way faster than I would like for it to be. So I'll just set this up for you, okay? Single dad, driving the kids home from school, and my oldest in the back seat, my youngest is back there too. The youngest is now asleep. We were in the car long enough for her to nod off. And my oldest, Elise, says, "Daddy, I need to talk to you about something." I go, "Okay, well, what is it?" She goes, "Well, it's PERIODS." And as you might imagine, my heart went into my throat. And once I got it back down, I said, "It's not really my department, Claire or Elise, but lay it on me. What are your questions?" And she goes, "Well, the first time it happens, is it going to hurt?" Again, I've never experienced it. Couldn't even begin to tell her what it feels like. So I'm like, I don't think so from what I can tell. And then she says, is it going to feel like I peed my pants? And I'm like, well, I guess if you don't get to it, I mean, I'm winging it, Stacy. I'm doing this the best I can, And I said to her, well, if you don't get to the bathroom and take care of it quickly enough, yeah, I can see that happen. And she says, is it going to soak through my clothes? Are people going to see it? I'm like, well, that's why it's so important for you to get to the bathroom. Mm-hmm. So I asked my daughter, I said, "Elise, why are you asking me these questions? What brought this up?" And she tells me that her mother got her an American Girl book all about puberty. And so I guess, I get to field the questions. I don't know. Stacy, you raised a young man on your own. Surely you experienced something like this.
Yes, there was this time when, and I don't remember what it's called. Okay, so, for everybody out there, my son's 21. He lives in Hawaii now, so I'm an empty nester, so to speak. But looking back, there was this time when his male parts got twisted in each other or around each other. And I got this call with my son in like amazing, horrid pain. And they're like, you have to come get your son and take him to the emergency room. And I was like, what? And so immediately, I went to go get him. We went to the emergency room. He's on the gurney. And they're like, oh, well, it's just this thing. These male parts are twisted around each other. They're going to fall out over time. But in the meantime, he's going to be in excruciating pain.
Oh, that is no solace for, as a parent.
And then they had to do x-rays and manipulate the whole thing. And it was awful. Oh, God. It was a situation. So, yes, I've been in that boat. I'm very glad to say that situation only happened, once or twice. But evidently that's a circumstance that, if you have male parts that can do that sometimes they will go there. And it did a couple times. And it was, really important to be, reassuring and loving and accepting and making him understand, that there's nothing wrong with him. This is just a body thing,
And it's a situation where you're as fearful as he is. You don't, you know even less about what's going on than he does, and he doesn't have a clue.
Right. And so I really kind of had to dig into, resources for me. And, certainly, and we'll talk about a few more refreshed resources, than I did back in the day, because that was about 10 years ago. But certainly these situations feel awkward to us as parents. But we have to think, oh my gosh, this is a young adult. Eventually you have to say, okay, this is a young adult looking for advice on adulting, really. And how am I going to help them, in a loving way that makes them feel accepted and safe in this vulnerable time when there's stuff they really do have to learn. And sometimes we're in a situation, I think, where we have to learn together. I would always tell Chris, let's learn something new, and maybe we learn together. Maybe I don't have all the answers, but and sometimes I would have meltdowns, like, what are we going to talk about, or
oh, for
no
sure.
way,
I was in a panic when Elise asked me.
Yeah.
She spelled it out, and I was like,
you have to say, okay, you can even say, what, this topic is something that I'm not used to talking about. I'm not prepared always for these kinds of topics. And, to be truthful, I need to get ready for that talk. I need to do, some due diligence and make sure that I give you good answers because I love you and I want to give you the right answers. I care very deeply for you to have knowledge even beyond me, in this area and probably in a lot of areas of life.
And you talk about sharing resources. You have one on the singleparentadvocate.org blog that you're going to share with us.
Well, I met a wonderful author. Now, this is more along the lines of single moms raising boys. Actually, I think it even crosses not just single moms raising boys, but certainly it goes through that lens. There's an author named Jeffrey Erkelins. And Jeffrey Erkelins is a very intelligent man, and he writes from a very intelligent perspective. And he talks a lot about, making sure that we don't strip the manhood out of boyhood, if you will. And he's got, a lot of information and articles. One of the most impactful one to me was the one where we talked about, or he spoke about, basically your son no longer being in the age of innocence, right? And he's going to be a teenager, right? And to me, at that time, as a single mom, he was my only son. We went through life together. It was very difficult to let go of my boy and welcome the young man. And then later, it was difficult to let go of the young man and welcome the adult married, moved to Hawaii son, And so those
he ripped it off like a
transitions.
Band-Aid for you.
Yeah, it was hard, but a lot of our reactions to those transitions are things that we can prepare for. We can prepare our hearts and our minds for in advance. I think that no matter how much self-care or reading you do, there's still that little ache of letting go of a little more and a little more that I'm learning to deal with better and more productively. But I think for a mom, there's probably not going to be a time when you don't have a few tears watching them ride off into the sunset.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the hardest things to do as a parent is just watch your child grow. Yeah. I mean, my youngest is 5, so she's still kind of snuggly. And it's like, you just, once you have one that gets old enough that you can't snuggle them anymore, and the next one comes along, there's twice as much snuggling. And my oldest daughter gets so jealous because she's like, well, you never snuggle with me. And I'm like, well, you're a little person. She's still portable. You know what I mean? And you find yourself like, now I have an appreciation for those experiences. And because I know that, once she turns 6 and 7 and starts running around and stuff, she's not going to want to snuggle in my lap and watch movies and stuff like that. So, I'm very possessive of that time with my kids to begin with. And, I can't understate it to anybody with little kids. The worst part is watching them get bigger because there's nothing you can do to stop it.
Well, there was this article I read this week, knowing that we were going to kind of talk about it. There's a website, Daryl, and it's called, let me see if I can put it in my notes or find it in my notes.
Is this the verywellfamily.com?
Yes, verywellfamily.com. And they have a nice article about single fathers raising daughters. And, I was talking or reading through that, and I was doing it was mentioning a lot of the things that you and I have already talked about, keeping the lines of communication open, making it safe, staying involved, trying to understand and listen, but not necessarily fix things all the time. As men, we're wired to fix things. You know what I mean? Like our default is, I'll fix it. I don't care what it is. Give me the duct tape. So it's almost like you're deprogramming yourself. You know what I mean? It's a challenge. Well, and then the other thing that was really cool about the article, it talked about teaching your children how to be a problem solver. And so I think that crosses over a lot of what you just talked about, where you don't necessarily want to pass this very personal topic off to anyone you know right now. It's not, you don't have someone in your life that is a person that you would naturally go to at this stage. But perhaps it would be good to say, hey, you've got a curiosity, and I want to dig into the answers with you, and then go and solve and get the answers together versus saying, oh, I've got to go gather the answers, become a professional on this topic, and then, regurgitate it back out to the most precious creature in your life.
Sure.
You might want to investigate together, and that it actually teaches our children problem-solving skills. And it's in an intimate environment where you both feel safe and you can be transparent and say, this topic's a little awkward for me, but I want to get over this because I love you. I want to be brave, and I want to help you find the answers I know you need, and we can do that together. Does that feel comfortable for you?
As it pertains to my topic? Questions about puberty, absolutely. I mean, because I don't know any more about it than she does, so we are going to learn together.
Yeah,
So,
but isn't that a great relationship building opportunity for you and your daughter?
everybody that I talk to tells me that middle school is so critical because that's where kids go one direction or the other. And they've, of course, the hormones kick in, and then friends play a different role at that age. Uh, and of course, this is much easier said than done. But I feel like my strategy as a father at this stage in the game, I just want to ensure that I'm close enough to my girls that when the hormones start flooding and things get really confusing and upsetting for them, I just want them to look at me as an ally and not an adversary.
Right.
So, and to your point, if you've got a demonstrated history with your little girl of solving those kinds of problems together, when they're scared and confused, they're more, I'd like to think, or at least I hope they are, they're more apt to come to you and say, how do we solve this problem together? Like we did, the previous problems that we encountered together. So really good stuff. What are some of the other high points in this article that you want to talk about?
Well, it talked about, it seems like there's the whole involvement, let's call category. How can we be involved in these days where our kids are so active and we're so spread thin? So they suggested, helping with homework. Making sure that if your children have events, you go to them and make it a priority.
I had to experience that this week. Both of my girls are in ballet, and their recital is next week. Part of their enrollment in the ballet program was they got tickets to the final performance of the Orlando Ballet's season, which this year was Peter Pan. So,
nice.
When it was offered to me, the tickets, I said, well, why don't you call the girl's mom and let them decide if they want to go. And of course, when I'm texting my ex-wife, I said, you guys just make it a girls' day. Go on Sunday. The girls aren't with me that weekend. You guys just go and have yourselves a nice little outing. And of course, she was like, what, you don't want to go? And I'm like, well, no, I don't really want to watch a ballet with my ex-wife, but
been in tights.
Right. But
oh no, I wasn't trying to be inappropriate. So sorry. I was just trying to be funny.
The Mel Brooks movie. Yeah, it's a classic. No, for me, honestly, no, I don't really want to go watch a ballet performance of Peter Pan. And I definitely don't want to go do it with my ex-wife. But, within days of me declining the offer from my ex-wife, I'm picking the girls up from their community center after school. And my youngest one says, Daddy, don't you want to go see Peter Pan with us? So, of course, I was like, well, of course I want to go see Peter Pan. So I end up going and watching Peter Pan with them. And keep in mind, we've only done these things a handful of times since getting divorced. This is probably the third or fourth event that we've all done together. So I'm, if I'm being honest, I'm not really 100% comfortable in that type of setting. I'm not ready to be friends with my ex-wife yet. So it was difficult, and you're going to love this. So we make it through the entire performance, and we're walking to the parking deck where we both, we're all parked together. And my youngest one is holding my hand in this hand and her mom's hand in this hand. And she goes, Daddy, I want you and mommy to hold hands. And I didn't know that my ex-wife was listening. And I said, Claire Bear, you're out of your mind. and I hear from back here, I go, well, and that's her obviously not liking it. So, and of course, to make things even more awkward, at one point she takes our hands and presses them together and says, I want you guys to be back together again. And it's like, my oldest who, for being only 7, she's got quite an understanding. And she's like, Dad, Claire, that's never going to happen. Claire, it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? And of course, going to the ballet together on Sunday is really just a dry run for the recital coming up next week. And the girls want us all to go out to dinner as a family after the recital. So this will be the second meal that I've shared with my ex-wife post-divorce. So that's going to be a little odd. But I mean, you do what you have to for your kids. It's important to the kids to see mom and dad doing things together. It's important for the kids to see that even though we don't have the traditional structure, we are still a family.
Well, you're both still active parents in their lives. And so, in that way, you are still a team, and you want to be a productive team. You want to be the best parenting team you can create, and I applaud you for that. Push your boundaries.
But for the purposes of our discussion with the article, it was easy for me to say ballet. No, thank you. I want nothing to do with that. Obviously, that was a mistake. Thankfully, my kids gave me an opportunity to fix that. So my message to you folks listening is, if you are a father raising kids, or you are a mother raising boys, and you they're in ballet or baseball, whatever it is, I feel like it's incumbent upon us as parents to be involved in that, so that they understand that, even though ballet may not be my thing, I'm not gonna abandon you when you've got it, And of course, after the ballet, they said, Daddy, would you go to the ballet again? And I was like, I thought Tinkerbell was pretty funny. She was animated the whole time, and it was the first time I've actually seen a story told through ballet. Fortunately for me, I was lucky in that I, have a rough understanding of Peter Pan, the story. So I knew what was going on. But yeah, I will absolutely do it again. I may need to read up on Swan Lake before Christmas, because I don't really know the story of Swan Lake, and I would just be completely lost. But yeah, there will be more ballets and those types of outings with me and my girls for sure.
Well, and the thing is, I was thinking about when my son was in baseball, and then he was in soccer, and then he later got into musical theater, I always, in those environments, met other parents, whether they were coaches or teachers or, artistic directors, who had perspectives on life that I didn't have. And they were so valuable to teach my son ways to look and experience life that I didn't know that were good ways, And, that's a way to kind of broaden our own perspectives and our own horizons too, by being involved and understanding more about the world that our kids are living in, their world, their personal world. And that builds intimacy and also creates an environment in our homes to where you can seek answers together. And that is something that I think is just awesome. Another thing the article talked about, was about, making sure that we don't want to rescue or overprotect. Now, this was my area. Were
you a helicopter parent?
I was the jealous mom. Oh, yes. You don't come near my baby.
Okay.
We talked about it a little bit with Kelly Aceta about, the tendency to overprotect. And, so that was one of my landmines. And I needed to overcome that big time. And so, a lot of, topics that can bubble up, that, whether you're raising a son as a single mom or raising a daughter as a single dad, some of these topics are going to be topics that you are going to go, yeah, we're not talking about that. You're not hanging out with that kid anymore. Let's move on. Done. Boom. Drop that bomb. Drop the mic. Whatever we're going to drop. But, I found out that really, really burned a hole in my relationship with Chris, because he didn't feel that way, and he didn't have that perspective. And so looking back, I could have said, let's investigate if this is a good environment for us to be in, or let's investigate what red flags look like, or what a healthy relationship looks like if you want to have a girlfriend, But I didn't have that article that we just read, So I was trying to protect him. And I know that there's a lot of instances when we feel like it's us and our kids against the world. And in some days, maybe it is. But we want to kind of be more open-hearted and more curious.
Well, and you also want to be respectful of their privacy and their boundaries. You know what I mean? I would imagine your son was probably like, listen, I know this kid way better than you do. Who are you to step in and tell me, but of course, kids don't know what we know, and they don't know that we're looking at things that they're not necessarily looking at. But yeah, I mean, I can see how if you're overly protective, it can almost cause a rift between you and your child.
Oh, yeah. And so, my hindsight just taught me, it's better when that instinct rises to, gather your hens and protect them from, whatever you see before you. We should probably investigate that with our kids or with the relevant adult that's involved in that group, and see if you can kind of dial back that trigger and see something through love instead of fear, and sure. It's hard, because we're always blasting through life, working, work-life balance is tough for most single families, so you're working 40 to 60 hours a week and you're coming home and doing another 20 or 30 hours of self-care, house care, all the activities and homework and things. So it's a big ask to slow down and take some time and investigate things together, but well worth it for sure.
Sure. Stacy, let's connect our listeners with these with these resources that we've been talking about. Start with the blog. Where can they find that Single Parent Advocate blog?
Well, you just go to singleparentadvocate.org, go to the blogs, and you can look up Jeffrey Erkelens. It's Erkelens. He's a wonderful author. Again, his writing style is very advanced, but he puts forth some very interesting perspective as it relates to raising boys in these days and times.
Stacy, what you working on next week? Anything coming up we want to alert the listeners to?
Well, I think, next week, as we get past the SPA EDU series this weekend with financial matters, we're going to get into preparing for a food drive on May 1st for Mother's Day for some families here in Dallas in partnership with Antioch Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas, off of I-20. And then we're moving forward in partnership with Gateway Dallas Church for May 8th, having a Mother's Day brunch. We have the May 1st invitation sent out to families, but if anybody is interested in being invited to the May 1st Mother's Day parade, if you will, families are going to decorate their cars. We're going to double down and fill up the fridge of any moms that show up. We've got cute surprises and gifts to give them and their kids to honor them for Mother's Day. And then on May 8th with Gateway Dallas, we'll be doing a luncheon at their Dallas campus, and I'll get information out on that real soon. That one kind of developed real quickly, and we're super excited about it. So we're going to have 2 weekends of Mother's Day love.
So we'll want to direct folks to singleparentadvocate.org, also the Single Parent Advocate Facebook page.
Absolutely. Right now on Facebook, anybody who wants to be able to sign up for the Financial Matters workshop, they can do that. And then we'll have registration set up for May 8th pretty soon. The May 1st invitation went out, and I also have it live on Meetup. So any families that want to go to Single Parent Advocates Meetup page in Dallas, Texas, you can see the link. It's on Eventbrite as well. So we'll make sure that you guys can get connected. And if you are not in Dallas and you'd like to connect with our community, we really encourage you, please get involved with our Facebook group. Usually most of our announcements go out on Facebook. And I would just want to leave this message to everyone. If you are a mother on Mother's Day, please know we honor you. We do really want you to know that you are a mighty warrior on behalf of your family. We want you to feel honored. And so just as Mother's Day approaches, soften your hearts and know there's a group of people that really respect you, what you're doing and trying to do to raise your kids today. And with that, I guess we'll wait till next week, Daryl.
Stacy, outstanding show. For the listeners and viewers, if you want to connect with us, you can contact Stacy, send her an email, stacy.poitras@singleparentadvocate.org. You can contact me, Daryl Moody, gmail.com. Again, wherever you're listening to the podcast, we ask that you subscribe. Make sure you'll be the first to know when the new episodes come out. We record on Fridays. We post usually later in the day. But connect with us if you've got a topic you want to discuss, an issue you want to discuss, that sort of thing. Any feedback for the show, we'd love to hear it. Again, stacy.poithres@singleparentadvocate.org. You can reach me at darylmoody@gmail.com. Thank you again, folks, for listening, and we will join you once again next week.
Take care, everybody.